The 8th was a small force consisting of 3 destroyers, 2 Narviks, a captured Dutch ship, and a torpedo boat, whilst the 10th destroyer flotilla, of which Haida was a part, consisted of 2 4-ship divisions. The 19th was mainly inexperienced vessels, and the 20th was, shall we say, the 18th. They had been told to intercept a German force which was known to...
Be advised your drone has located a bomb.
to be approaching the western approaches of the English Channel. And sure enough, contact was made at about 7 miles.
That window's open, careful.
He's outside behind there, guys.
That is not.
Scanning for electronic devices.
The alibi is dead.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
Loading new mags! RED active. Sweeping perimeter.
Devices going
RED
dark.
active. Sweeping perimeter. Detected a bomb.
Tracks out. Breach charges a go.
Bomb spotted.
There. Red stair tab.
Cover your ears.
Stay sharp.
She's red stairs,
15
cap.
seconds remaining. 10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds. Diffuser is active, protected at all costs. Op 4 neutralized. Mission successful.
The German destroyers spotted the Allied ships first when they became highlighted by the moonlight. The Germans launched 12 torpedoes, but their adversaries managed to dodge them. An artillery battle broke out, and the Allies had total fire superiority. Ida and Huron concentrated fire on Z-24 and quickly achieved success. Almost the entire above-water part of the ship was destroyed and set ablaze. the enemy attempted to flee under the cover of a smokescreen. The flagship Z-32 continued fighting against Tatar and Ashanti on her own and took 3 hits. Z-32 turned right to put some distance between her and the Allies. Ashanti rushed after her. At this moment, the damaged ZH-1 became visible in the dissipating smoke. Her artillery quickly opened fire on Tatar, but Ashanti arrived in time and torpedoed the motionless ship. The torpedo explosion tore the ZH-1's bow away.
Sounds like third floor again.
Yeah, let's use some heat.
Seconds to insertion.
Ashanti kept firing on the German destroyer. At 2:40,
You have dropped the diffuser. The diffuser is now secured.
They have lesions on
Activating
red.
presence reduction. Charge set.
They have one in piano. Christmas. Christmas. It's a Mazu, I believe. Or sorry, it's a Legion. Christmas. Pulse's first floor.
Drone up.
Pulse's first floor.
Contact. First floor.
Maybe she can't be anywhere.
They only have like one on site. Unless you just killed a room.
You located a bomb.
Yeah, see.
ZH-1 exploded and sank. Later that night, Canadian destroyers were sweeping the area and stumbled across the heavily damaged Z-32. Fleeing from them, Z-32 was driven ashore on the Ile de Bats, where in the morning she was finished off by British Beaufighter aircraft. The Allies managed to destroy 2 German destroyers and damage 2 more. After the successful battle on June the 9th, 1944, Haida and her allies continued to complete missions aimed at removing enemy ships from coastal waters.
During the fighting in the English Channel, Haida had a couple of advantages called radar. In fact, she had 3 of them. She had firstly a gunnery radar. This was accurate enough to spot fall of shot, both outbound and inbound, much to the consternation of the operators. She had warning combined, which is a fairly reliable radar, although it was well known to the Germans, and so the British and Canadians didn't like to use it unless contact was joined. And finally, she had warning surface, which was a pretty reliable radar, which would detect a destroyer-sized target at about 9 miles. All of these would prove vital in the night fighting in the English Channel.
Despite the fact that the German surface fleet was virtually non-existent by the end of June 1944, the naval war went on. The more success the Allies achieved in the land operations, the more desperately and fiercely German submarines opposed them at sea.
The time-honored method of dealing with an enemy submarine will be the depth charge, usually mounted on rails at the stern of the ship or maybe fired off the side with K-guns. The problem was that in order to hit your target, you had to go directly over it, which meant A, that you lost contact, and B, you actually had to be accurate enough to do it. The end replacement of it, however, was the squid mortar. Haida received her squids in the 1950s update. They replaced both the depth charge rails and the aft gun. Now, the advantage to Squid was it was adjustable in range. No longer did you have to ride over your target in order to sink it. And they were fired automatically by
Drone has located a bomb.
by means of a simple electrical connection attached to the sonar system inside the ship. Haida has a U-boat kill to her credit, U-971 in 1944, as Haida was protecting the western approaches to the English Channel during the invasion of
10 seconds before insertion.
France. Overall, the Royal Canadian Navy developed a reputation for ASW excellence. They sank about
I'm out! Scanning for electronics. Swapping bags! Reload.
Make room!
Claymore deployed. Scanning for devices and traps.
One of them is on third floor.
Cab is roaming back toward patrol. Yeah, we got one guy down on a Frost trap. Frost is in the hall, going to him now. Frost is coming bakery. Just going to the, yeah. Just going.
30 U-boats, and in the post-war period they became the de facto ASW force for NATO.
During World War II, the number of people in the Canadian Navy grew almost 70 times. And in all those years, Canadian sailors developed their own understanding of naval service, which was slightly different from the traditions of the British Royal Navy.
An interesting event in Canadian naval history happened in 1949 with what are known as the Canadian Mutinies. Now, the word is a little bit strong for what happened, not least because the captain of Athabaskan accidentally on purpose left his cover on top of the written list of demands from the junior sailors, so he never officially saw anything. This happened on a couple of ships about the same time, not Haida, it should be noted, and what it really was more of a sit-down protest pending an airing of grievances. And this came down to something of a cultural difference between North Americans and people from England. Where North American people, we tend to be a little bit more independent, shall we say. We like to know why we're doing it. We like to have a little bit more consideration, shall we say, from up above, instead of simply being told you're going to do this when, like it or lump it. The officers were more steeped in the tradition of the Royal Navy, the British Navy, which perhaps was a little bit more autocratic. The end result of this, it all worked out fairly well, is that the Canadian Navy developed new policies which took greater concern of the requirements, shall we say, of the junior enlisted sailors.
Some people in the Canadian government believed that this incident was inspired by communist ideas, but this opinion was completely unjustified. Moreover, the destroyer was soon sent to Southeast Asia to fight against the Red Menace.
Again, the ship was converted to the way it is now. The armament was all changed, upgraded in 1951. And this is the way the ship was when it went to Korea in 1952.
Developed their own understanding of naval service, which was slightly different from the traditions of the British Royal Navy.
An interesting event in Canadian naval history happened in 1949 with what are known as the Canadian Mutinies. Now, the word is a little bit strong for what happened, not least because the captain of Athabaskan accidentally on purpose left his cover on top of the written list of demands from the junior sailors, so he never officially saw anything. This happened on a couple of ships about the same time, not Haida, it should be noted, And what it really was more of a sit-down protest pending an airing of grievances. And this came down to something of a cultural difference between North Americans and people from England, where North American people, we tend to be a little bit more independent, shall we say. We like
Jammer ready. Eagle eye ready.
Camera feed up and running. Camera feed.
My eagle eye has its back.
Be advised, Op 4 has found a bomb. 10 seconds left. 5 seconds to insertion.
Camera feed up and running.
Op 4 has located a bomb. Be ready for hostile action.
Reload. Jammer activated.
Calibrating air compression. All set.
Activating jammer.
Oh, skylight.
to know why we don't have a little bit more consideration, shall we say, from up above, instead of simply being told you're going to do this when, you know, like it or lump it. The officers were more steeped in the
And the Canadian government believed that this incident was inspired by communist.
And that's where it was when it went to the way it is now. The armament was all changed, upgraded.
The destroyer was soon sent to Southeast Asia to fight against the Red Menace.
Again, the ship was converted to the way it is now. The armament was all changed, upgraded in 1951. And this is the way the ship was when it went to Korea in 1952. And that's where Haida became famous when it joined what they called the Train Busters Club. And this was a method of trying to destroy North Korean trains that ran along the coast at night. And it ran at night, figuring they couldn't be seen. So they ran it became a contest invented by the U.S. Navy to see if they could destroy these trains. It became the Train Buster. In the history of the Train Busters Club, there were 25 trains destroyed. Haida is second in train busting with 2.5. Haida's record has always been superb gunnery actions. In fact, the current Canadian Navy trophy for gunnery expertise is named after Haida. It's the Haida Trophy for gunnery excellence.
During her second tour of duty in the Yellow Sea in 1954, Haida patrolled Korean shores, supervising the implementation of the ceasefire treaty supported by the United Nations. This was the first example of what we call today a peacekeeping mission, 10 years before this notion was introduced and became widely used. Haida reprised this role during the Suez Crisis of 1956.
Op 4, last stop standing.
I think they got it.
10 seconds left.
The ship retired in October 1963.
5 seconds to go. Op 4 has deployed a diffuser. You need
The light
diffuser located. Disable it.
The life of a warship is basically 20 years. And again, at that time, Canadian Navy was expanding. We were building completely different types of ships. And again, the men that were needed on the tribals were needed to man other ships. So the tribals were scrapped. It was that time that our next naval person, Neil Bruce, decided that it'd be try to preserve the ship as Canada's greatest ship and just preserve it as tribal. And they were successful in that. An organization was formed, Haida Incorporated, and they acquired the ship from Crown Assets in 1964. They bought it for a huge sum at that time, $20,000. It existed there as a museum, national historic site.